Sir, tanong ko lang muna because we know that the survey has been conducted already. May we know where exactly was the survey done? Was it here in Metro Manila, NCR? Was it in Visayas as well, in Mindanao?
Yeah, it's a nationwide survey. It's the part of the Tugon ng Masa third quarter 2024 survey of OCTA Research conducted August 28 to September 2. So there were actually 1,200 respondents nationwide. So this is all over the Philippines, plus minus 3% margin of error.
Professor, ano po ang na-observe ninyo na changes when it comes to this particular survey in the third quarter, the senatorial survey, compared to the previous one?
Yeah, and that's important to highlight because we generally see consistency with the names, and we also see that with other results that come out. But consistently, Congressman Erwin Tulfo is still number one, and his brother, older brother, Ben Tulfo is number two, and they're actually, close, one and two. And then we see some very familiar names. And then also, it's the first time we're seeing Camille Villar within the range of 17 to 26. She has 17% of respondents in the survey. And I would like to note that 2 quarters ago, she was just at 3%. So that's a big jump from 3% to 17%. But again, we're still seeing very familiar names, including 3 from the Duterte family and some very familiar incumbents and former senators.
Well, speaking of Camille Villar, Professor, she did climb double digits. It's almost a 14-point increase for Camille Villar. She made it to the top 20. Not in the top 12, pero pasok nga po siya dito sa top 20. How rare is it to have a double-digit increase in the survey? And what do you think is the reason behind her jump?
Well, to be fair, I've been seeing campaign ads. So, I mean, not campaign ads, but, some billboards, I think related to them, some candidates or possible candidates. So it's not rare to see a double-digit jump. So it depends on the context. But generally, if it's an incumbent, the numbers are generally stable already. So we're seeing some consistency between them.
Professor, explain to us the numbers naman when it comes to former President Rodrigo Duterte, because he's at 33%, which is the same from the previous survey, but he's now in the lower, kumbaga, ranking from dati na 6 to 13th place. Now he's from 7 to the 15th spot. Why is this happening, and would you say this is a significant change?
Well, his numbers are consistent, but I think for many respondents, when they respond to the survey, when they select their candidates, they also think about people who are likely to run. I mean, even if their name is there, because this is an aided survey. So they might not select someone that they feel might not be running. So there's that aspect of that. But his numbers, like he's mentioned, has been consistent. It's just that the race is becoming more competitive. And you can actually see there are several names bunched up with 33 to 35% responder preference. So it's going to be a very, quite a competitive senatorial race for 2025.
Professor, how about the other Dutertes? We're going to need you to wear your political analyst hat here. Do you think weakening na po ang Duterte brand? If so, bakit kaya?
Well, I mean, that's a possibility, but not necessarily because, again, former President Rodrigo Duterte is still in the top 12. And there's not as much awareness yet, or even if there's awareness yet, it's not quite clear if the other two Dutertes will really be running. So it's kasama dyan si Pulong and si Baste. And they're within range. They're both around 16 to 24. And I think if they consolidate in one candidate, it's very possible that they'll get at least one Duterte in. There's a very realistic chance of that happening.
Sir, I also wanted to get your thoughts on Doc Willie Ong. It's very unfortunate, as we know, he's been diagnosed with cancer. But here, he was able to get a good spot sa survey na ito. What do you think of his numbers?
Yeah, I like his numbers. I mean, I think he could have been a senator if he ran for it in 2022. So, I mean, hearing the bad news, the very sad news for Doc Willie Ong, and our prayers are with him, and I'm sure you have all expressed prayers as well for the good doctor. We now won't know. I mean, if he's probably not gonna be running. I mean, it would be unfortunate for the country.
Professor, what do you think kumbaga, influences the preferences of Filipino voters when it comes to these surveys?
Well, a lot of it is awareness. I mean, if you're running a nationwide campaign, you must have awareness in the whole country, and that's very difficult. I mean, even if you have a baluarte, in one province, if you're not known in the whole nation, then it's quite difficult already. That's already an obstacle. And so there's an advantage for established brands, and that helps them to keep good numbers. And that's why we're seeing a lot of very familiar names there, incumbents, well-known personalities, former senators, former presidential candidates, etc.
Professor, this third quarter survey of OCTA Research, do you think this will be a good basis for those looking to run, to base their whole campaign on this survey to see if, or decide if they will be pursuing to run in the upcoming 2025 midterm elections?
Well, strategically, I mean, they could use whatever information that they can get, so including this survey. But anyone who is getting at least 10% or even less, I mean, campaign hasn't started yet. People haven't filed their candidacy. So, they could have a realistic chance once the campaign period starts. And there will be changes. There could be a lot of changes, especially with who would be endorsing who. And that will be changing a lot of the dynamics. And it also depends. I mean, there might be some people not in the list who might actually be running, and we might not even be prepared for that, and there might actually be competitive candidates. So my advice is, anybody who wants to run, I mean, they should run. I mean, they can use this as a guide. And then for our voters, again, I remind them na sana let's study the candidates. Pag-aralan natin ano yung mga nagawa na nila, or what their accomplishments and credentials are, and let's vote for our country. So let's vote, let's choose the best candidate. Let's do our own research, not based on surveys, but based on kung ano yung mga accomplishments nila or yung mga kaya nilang gawin to help the country.
Professor, since you mentioned some candidates were not on the list, former Mayor Isko Moreno and Abby Binay were in the quarter 2 results, pero ngayon po wala po sila dun sa lumalabas na listahan. Why do you think this happened?
Well, actually, see, Abby Binay is in our list. I think she is number 16 to 24 with 22%. So she's within range. Definitely has some very strong prospects. See, Isko Moreno, I believe that he's going for a mayor. So, but that could change. So, again, we base the list. This is an aided survey, so we base it on whatever information we have, and sometimes that could be inaccurate. So we might have the wrong information. Baka naman tumakbo siya for senator, and he has a good chance if he runs for senator.
Okay, Professor, when are you planning to release your fourth quarter survey, and are you anticipating more accurate numbers already from your respondents? And I'm guessing this will be released after the filing of COCs na po, no?
Yeah, probably around November to December. I mean, we are confident in the accuracies of the results. But of course, as you mentioned, once we have the COC, then we'll have a complete list of who's actually running. So wala nang guesswork involved.
All right. And with that, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was OCTA Research Fellow, Dr. Guido David.